as this business kind of solidified itself, I contemplated running a drag car again. I was a member of the Early Times Car Club, and this is the Roadster I had as a member of the club, and the guy said, we ought to buy a club car and race. The drag races, the dry lakes, what have you. It sounds good to me, I'm ready. So I put my friend Joe Scanlon onto the task of finding something for us, and he found the yellow 29. Let me see if I have a picture of the yellow 29 in here. Yeah, there it is. This little car was pretty much a raggedy piece, and but it had a flathead in it. It was all complete, but it was kind of shabby. So I'm talking to the guys in the club, and I said, okay, I'm ready to get this car, and we'll participate. And they all crawfished on me. They said, I don't know. So I said, the hell with you, I'm going to do it. So I bought the car myself. And a couple of the guys participated in that. One of them bought me a set of tires. And they would help. They would go to the races with me and help. But they didn't have any direct involvement, and they didn't put up any money. So along comes this whole idea of the reunion. And I was at the
Hot Rod Reunion.
The California, what eventually became the California Hot Rod Reunion in 1991. I was at 1992? Yeah, okay. I was at Joe Paisano's funeral when this whole issue came about, when Steve Gibbs and the guys were sitting around talking about, us old guys getting together like this is only happens when somebody dies. We ought to have some kind of reunion. Everybody immediately leapt on that and thought it was a good idea, including me. So I figured I'd go ahead and get involved. And so my first reunion included the yellow car, and I towed it up there with the 32, and I happen to have a picture of that as well. This is my 32, towing the Roadster with my son in it. And that really got me. That whole reunion thing was terrific. Having had about a 25-year history of going down to Christmas every Wednesday night and hanging around with those guys, I was kind of current in what was happening in drag racing and what have you. Even though I was fringe, I didn't participate. I just did the four-banger club meet and a couple of good guys at Pomona and things like that with this little car, and I was really enjoying it. And Dr. Mark Van Buskirk, my dentist friend, who was really into hot rods, he saw the 29 and he had to have it. So I sold it to him, and we subsequently ran it at Bonneville. Here it is at Bonneville. We're on 150 up there with it. And now all I have is my Roadster to play with. I need something. Pete Eastwood calls me, and he says, you used to work at Woody's. Would you come up here and look at this chassis and see what it is? So I said, sure, why not? So I went up there, and we looked the car over, and we figured what the era was, and it had a lot of earmarks on it that said that it was the Canon Hustler 6, which was a a partnership between him and Woody, and I'll show you those pictures in a minute. But Pete says, "How would you like to be partners in the doing of this car?" And I'm fresh off of having sold the Roadster. I said, "Yeah, why not?" So we agreed, and I came and got it and put it in the back of the truck and brought it here to the shop. And my wife says, "What was that you just brought in?" I said, "That's a dragster chassis." "Oh, really?" she says. What are you going to do with that?" I said, "I would just put it together, put a motor in it, what have you." She says, "You're not going to drive it, are you?" I says, "No." She says, "Well, is somebody else going to drive it?" I says, "No, this is what they call a cackle car." She says, "What?" I says, "Yeah, you start it up and run some nitro through it and make some noise." She says, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "That's all there is to it?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Sounds like self-abuse to me." And that's how I got into the business of having a cackle machine. And I'll give you some vignettes of how that went together. I called Doug Peterson, and he said, "I got some motor parts." I bought the motor parts, and I talked to the guys in the East that make bell housings, and I slowly slipped it together in the form of, this is the car we identified it as. And this is with Canon in the car. And I replicated that car as close as I could. And cackled it, 3 years in a row, something like that, with a shorty body. And everybody, Hannah comes up and says, "Now this is what a race car really should look like." Everybody that's in the dragster business from the 60s would say that this is what it should look like. And so I kind of wore out the car the way it was in my mind. So I decided I was going to put a body on it, a full body, because I wanted to have a pretty car like the rest of the guys. It's something to look at, and it's a trophy, you know. So I went down to Chrisman and I said, "I would like to build this body on this car and have it look like Cannon would have made it had he been able to put his own body instead of the Woody Streamline body that was a complete failure." And he said, "Sure, why not?" So I wrote a letter to Mrs. Cannon, and I told her what I was going to do. And she says, "Sounds good to me." So that's when I proceeded. Before we get into the particulars of the construction of the Hustler 6 and what it came to be and is now, I mentioned Frank Cannon, and he really deserves to be recognized. I have a picture here of him and Art Chrisman at this is at the reunion, and he's in the Hustler 1, and it's the only time he was ever in the car. So this is a treasure, this picture. Mm-hmm. But that's Frank, and this is Art, and I love that picture. Yeah, okay. The history of the Hustler is a lengthy one. He won the very first Bakersfield meet.
As the
original Hustler. Chrisman and Cannon. Chrisman Brothers and Cannon was the way it was known. And that's what it looked like at the very first Bakersfield March meet, U.S. Fuel and Gas Championship, which he won over Tony Waters, who's in the other car.
So that's the final round.
Yes.
Wow.
In what year? About
1959.
59.
Yeah.
And the front wheels on this car are steel wheels that he borrowed because Mrs. Gotelli backed over the magnesium wheels that he had on it, which were like those early spokes, the mag spokes, and broke it. So he had to scatter and find something that would work, and that's what worked. And so that was the Hustler one as it was originally built. Fast forward 25 years or so, and this was it when it was being prepared to be repainted after so many years. And then he would make exhibition runs. This is at the 2009 March meet with Smoking the Goodyears. This is at one of the first reunions. And back in 59, 60, you can see plainly on the side of the car it says Chrisman Brothers and Cannon. And Art did the driving, Lloyd did his share of the work, and Cannon kind of funded the whole thing because his idea was to run this car was he had a motor in a Chrysler that Art had built in a T-Bird, and he wanted to run it in a dragster. So he said, why don't we build a dragster and put my motor in it? So they drew the car on the floor over in Compton and built the car right there and went to Long Beach with it unblown on gas because the gas the fuel ban was on. And he was talking to Mickey, who was running the racetrack. He says, we're going to run 150 with this thing. And Mickey says, pfft. Cannon says, I'll bet you $100. And Mickey says, you're on. And they went out and they ran 149 the first run. Mickey paid him off right then because he knew what was coming, right? So he gave him the 100 and sent him on his way. So it was just a shorty body, unblown car, and they decided to build a blown motor and really freshen the thing up. So they had Red Rose build the body, and when they got ready to paint it, Cannon picked the colors off of a '56 Chevy, which was Sierra Gold and Cream. I'm sorry, Alpine White, but it's kind of a cream color. And they call it the Hustler because the B-58 was a big, fast airplane, a bomber during that era. And Cannon, of course, had his own airplane and what have you. And so that's how the name Hustler came about. And then they ran it successfully. They won quite a few meets. They were runner-up the following year at Bakersfield. The next 2 years they were runner-up at Bakersfield. And they won the A-Fuel class at Green Valley at the AHRA Nationals and lost to Zane Schubert, who had his dual-engine car, and he sat out because he won AA fuel, and AA fuel ran A fuel for top eliminator back in those days. So he won the class and was runner-up. He beat all the bad guys. And I think Zane raced. Vance Hunt showed up with a lawnmower motor attached to the front of his Chrysler and wanted to run AA fuel with the lawnmower motor. He said, "I got two engines," and Tice threw him out.